Alexander the Great, architect of an empire. When Alexander III of Macedon ascended the throne in 336 BCE, he inherited a kingdom with boundless potential and a dream that stretched far beyond its borders. Alexander was more than a conqueror. He was an architect, building an empire that spanned from Greece to India. His ambition was to create a realm where East and West could exist harmoniously, where cultures blended and new ideas flourished. This is the story of how Alexander meticulously designed and built his empire, a vision as bold as it was unprecedented. Chapter 1: Foundations of a Vision. Alexander grew up in the Macedonian court, surrounded by tales of heroism from his ancestor Achilles and educated by the philosopher Aristotle, who instilled in him a love of Greek culture, philosophy, and science. His father, King Philip II, had united Greece under Macedonian rule, but Alexander's vision extended further. He wanted to expand Macedonian influence across Asia, conquer the Persian Empire, and become a king not just of territories but of people and ideas. With his father's assassination, Alexander took the throne at 20. Immediately, he set out to solidify his position in Greece and prepare for the campaign that would define his legacy. He assembled a disciplined and loyal army, carefully selecting generals he could trust, such as Hephaestion and Parmenion, who would later help him shape his empire. Chapter 2: Entering Asia, Conquest as the First Step. In 334 BCE, Alexander crossed the Hellespont with a well-prepared army and stepped into Asia Minor, marking the beginning of his campaign against Persia. His first major victory came at the Battle of Granicus, where he displayed both military prowess and political foresight. After defeating the Persian forces, Alexander declared his mission was not just to conquer, but to liberate Greek cities under Persian rule. This declaration earned him the support of many local Greek cities, reinforcing his army and securing his supply lines. It was a calculated move that showed his empire would be built on both loyalty and trust. By portraying himself as a liberator rather than an invader, Alexander began laying the foundation of an empire that valued cultural ties and loyalty. Chapter 3: Building Bridges, the Siege of Tyre and Diplomacy in Egypt. Alexander's journey to architect his empire took a significant turn when he reached the fortified island city of Tyre. The city's location on an island, combined with its powerful navy, made it nearly impregnable. But Alexander, ever determined, ordered his engineers to construct a causeway connecting Tyre to the mainland. The siege lasted 7 months, testing his patience and resolve, but Tyre eventually fell, proving Alexander's dedication to his mission. Afterward, he continued southward into Egypt, where he was welcomed as a liberator from Persian rule. In 332 BCE, Alexander was crowned pharaoh, solidifying his position as both a ruler and a divine figure in Egyptian society. During his stay, he founded the city of Alexandria on the Mediterranean coast, a city that would become a cornerstone of his empire. Alexandria was more than a strategic location. It was a center for learning and culture, embodying Alexander's vision of a multicultural empire. Through these actions, Alexander showed that his empire would be built on more than conquest. He sought to unify and integrate, building bridges between cultures rather than walls. By adopting local customs and encouraging loyalty through diplomacy, he strengthened his empire and set the stage for his future ambitions. Chapter 4: Cultural Fusion in Persia. The heart of Alexander's empire lay in Persia, the powerful empire that had loomed over Greece for generations. In 331 BCE, Alexander faced King Darius III at the Battle of Gaugamela. Despite being outnumbered, he employed a masterful strategy, using his cavalry to break through the Persian lines and defeat Darius decisively. With this victory, Alexander became the ruler of Persia, entering the capital cities of Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis. But Alexander's rule over Persia was not solely military. It was cultural. He adopted Persian customs, dressed in Persian attire, and introduced himself to the Persians as a rightful king who respected their traditions. By doing so, he broke the mold of the foreign conqueror and became an inclusive leader, someone who valued the rich traditions of his new subjects. One of Alexander's boldest policies was encouraging intermarriage between his Macedonian soldiers and Persian women. He himself married Roxana, a Persian noblewoman, and later held a mass wedding at Susa, where thousands of his soldiers wed Persian brides. These policies were controversial among his Macedonian soldiers, who viewed them as a departure from their Greek heritage. But Alexander understood that to build a lasting empire, he needed unity beyond national loyalty. He needed a fusion of cultures that would support his empire from within. Chapter 5. Founding cities as centers of culture and governance. Throughout his campaign, Alexander founded numerous cities, many of which bore his name, including Alexandria in Egypt, Alexandria Eskate in Central Asia, and others across Persia and Bactria. These cities served multiple purposes. They were military outposts, administrative centers, and, most importantly, hubs of cultural exchange. In these cities, Greek and local influences blended, creating a unique Hellenistic culture that combined Greek art, architecture, and learning with local customs and knowledge. Alexander ensured that these cities had theaters, gymnasiums, temples, and libraries, reflecting Greek values and fostering intellectual growth. His most famous city, Alexandria in Egypt, housed the legendary Library of Alexandria, which became a center of knowledge and scholarship. Scholars from across the empire gathered here, studying Greek philosophy, Egyptian medicine, Persian mathematics, and Indian astronomy. Alexander's cities were the lifeblood of his empire, spreading Greek culture while embracing the diversity of his new territories. Chapter 6. Governance and the Policy of Integration. As Alexander's empire grew, he faced the monumental challenge of governing a realm with diverse cultures, languages, and religions. Rather than imposing Macedonian rule across his territories, Alexander appointed local leaders and satraps, governors, who understood the customs and people of their regions. By keeping local leadership intact and blending it with Macedonian oversight, he created a system that balanced loyalty with autonomy. Alexander also encouraged local religious practices, visiting the temples of different gods and respecting local deities, which won him the loyalty of many of his new subjects. This respect for diverse religious beliefs and practices helped stabilize his rule and reinforced his vision of a united empire. Chapter 7. The Limits of Expansion and the Empire's Fragility. Alexander's empire reached its zenith when he crossed into India in 326 BCE, where he faced King Porus in the Battle of Hydaspes. The encounter was one of his most challenging battles, as Porus's army included war elephants, a sight unfamiliar and terrifying to the Macedonians. Alexander's strategic acumen, however, secured his victory, and he allowed Porus to retain his kingdom as a vassal, demonstrating his respect for worthy adversaries. Yet, Alexander's relentless ambition began to wear on his army. His soldiers, exhausted from years of campaigning, longed to return home. When Alexander proposed further expansion into India, his men refused, forcing him to turn back. Alexander had reached the limits of his empire, and while he continued to plan future campaigns, the bonds holding his empire together were beginning to fray. Chapter 8. The Architect's Final Plans and the Collapse of an Empire. Alexander returned to Babylon in 323 BCE with grand plans to consolidate and expand his empire. He envisioned campaigns into Arabia and beyond, and he began organizing his territories, drawing up plans to integrate his empire further through a network of roads, cities, and trade routes. However, in June of that year, Alexander fell ill and died at the age of 32. His death left a power vacuum, as he had named no clear successor, and his generals, known as the Diadochi, soon divided the empire among themselves. Ptolemy took Egypt, Seleucus claimed Persia and the eastern territories, and Antigonus controlled Asia Minor. Alexander's vision of a united empire quickly unraveled as his former allies turned rivals, each seeking to carve out their own kingdoms. Chapter 9. The Legacy of Alexander's Empire. Although his empire fragmented, Alexander's vision endured. The Hellenistic kingdoms that emerged from his empire continued to foster the cultural fusion he had championed. Greek became the common language across the Mediterranean and Asia, facilitating trade, diplomacy, and the spread of ideas. Alexandria in Egypt remained a cultural beacon, attracting scholars and artists from all corners of the known world. The legacy of Alexander's empire was as much cultural as it was territorial. By integrating Greek, Persian, Egyptian, and Indian elements, he created a cosmopolitan world where knowledge, art, and science could flourish. His cities became the centers of this Hellenistic civilization, blending ideas that would influence the Western and Eastern worlds for centuries. Alexander the Great is remembered not only as a conqueror but as an architect of an empire that transcended borders and united diverse cultures. His vision, though short-lived in its political form,